think it was about 15-20 years ago, a guy called Gary Chapman wrote a book called something like The 5 Languages of Love, or The 5 Love Languages. And I think it's if I should choose one book to recommend people to read, that would be it. Because it's just fundamentally, exceptionally essential that we feel love. And the most important is that we love ourselves, so that we have this inner feeling of love for ourselves, so we don't need it so much from the outside, so we don't crave it. You can call that self-worth. Just knowing you're worth something, or worthy and lovable without having to do anything. But then in a relationship, one of the key things that people really look for, consciously or unconsciously, is to feel loved. And according to Gary Chapman, in his time, I think he's a relationship therapist or something like that, he realized that there's 5 different ways that people interpreted love. And it's kind of like a language. If I don't speak my wife's love language, she doesn't get it, so she doesn't feel loved. And if my wife doesn't speak my language of love, I don't get it. The same with my kids and my friends, and it's used in the workplace also. And see if I can recall the 5 love languages. It's touch, presence, giving presence, receiving presence. It's quality time together. It's helping each other. And did I mention gifts? Giving gifts? Yeah. Then the last one is acknowledgement. I didn't say that, right? So acknowledgement, giving gifts, touch, time together, and helping each other. So let's say I know that my wife's love language is touch. So if I know that, and like anything else, this can be used as manipulative or as the real way of doing it. I love my wife, so most of the time. So when I want to show love to her, it doesn't help so much to give her a present or tell her I love her, because her love language is touch. But if she's standing somewhere and I go and give her a hug, or I go behind her and kind of cuddle her neck, then it's just obvious, and of course we talked about this, she just immediately relaxes and feels so good and feel that I love her. I can help her all the time, I can do all this stuff. Of course that's nice, everybody likes help and everybody likes to be acknowledged, everybody likes present, but it doesn't fill what he calls the love tank. For me, my primary love language is quality time together, or just time together. So if she can give me a present, I would typically think, oh, it's easy for her to give me a present. Anybody can go buy a present. But if she really loved me, she would ask me if we want to go for a walk or go out for dinner or just spend time together. Whereas people whose love language is present would think, oh, wouldn't think about it, just feel loved if they got a present. But if they just said, oh, I love you so much, or wrote something, say, oh, anybody can send a message saying I love you, right? So do you get the kind of the general point here? Do I make it understandable? Okay. Yeah, you should definitely find out your own love language so you can tell people what you want and need. And your partner should too. I would definitely recommend that. The best thing was to buy the book and find out from that. Usually people have all kind of ideas about other people's love language, and you have to figure it out yourself because you're the one who knows. But it's so important, and why I think, apart from on top of what I already said, why it's so important is that in my experience, so many people argue about things that doesn't really matter. You and I talked about this. Oh, how do I get my partner to help more? How do I get more appreciation for this and that? But now, if appreciation is a love language, of course, but helping with this, or there's all kind of small stuff that if you don't feel loved, if your love tank is not full, then they will get the blame for what you are not satisfied with. If my wife doesn't reach out to me and creates quality time or says no to me, then usually I just over time feel bad about it. But I experience that I find small things that wouldn't irritate me normally that I start getting irritated by. But it's not really what it's all about. So it's so important when you start feeling annoyed about stuff and nagging, and then you have to go back to the love language and see what you really need. Because if you get that, then of course maybe you still want help, but it doesn't hit you the same way. Then you'll just say, oh, this is not fair, now I need help, and you'll ask for it. You won't kind of feel really bad and withdraw and stuff like that, typically. So it's so important. And for your friends and kids also, I mean, I know my son, I have a son that's 23 now, and his love language is touch. And my daughter, who is 25, her love language is time together. And if I can spend all the time with my son as I want, but he doesn't really feel loved. But if every time I see him, I hug him, and every time I leave him, I give him a hug and say goodbye, I talked to him about this, then it really means something to him. Whereas my daughter, she never comes, or almost never comes and hug me, and doesn't. It's obvious that she's not too much into touch and hugging. So I love my kids, and the two I talked about, I want them to feel loved. And so, of course, I do what I can to speak their love language, so I get across that I love them, instead of them not feeling loved just because I'm not speaking their language.